there, welcome back. This is a special series. It's nothing to do with anything else that I'm doing. It's just a four-parter that will go on for a bit. I may actually start to do. I'm not sure I'm going to start doing videos a bit more like randomly rather than having a schedule. Some days is good to have a schedule, some days is not so good because sometimes you feel forced on a schedule. But I'm doing this as a one-off to see how it goes. This is Rivette's Out One collection. Now, what I'll be doing, there's lots of stuff in this I'm not going to be covering. Basically, it's out what I'm covering. I'm not covering Spectre. I'm not covering any other films in the set at the moment. I'm just covering Out One, the 13-hour series made by Rivette in the early 70s. I've only watched the first 2 episodes, and all I've been doing is, as I go forward, I do 2 episodes, then I stop, then I do 2 more episodes, then I stop. I have not seen the rest of the episodes, so I'm going by, these are my impressions of the first 2 episodes, not knowing where it's going. As people who watch this kind of thing will probably know Daisuke Beppu's doing a Out One series as well. I've already communicated with him, and basically I'm doing this series of videos like behind his series where basically we both know each other are doing these videos. I'll send him a link once it's up. All it is, he'll be doing them, he's kind of doing his thing, I'm doing mine. Because he started it, I'm always going to stay behind his episodes, so whenever after his videos are going up and I've had a chance to breathe for a couple of days, that's after that point is probably when you'll good chance to see mine if I've got it done in time. But I'm not going to be like closing sales or anything. I'm going to give him space to do his stuff. Then if you're interested, you can come and see this my lines as well. That's the idea of it. I'm trying not to crowd him. But I've checked with him and explained what I'm doing, which is basically because he's bringing up Out and I have Out and I was interested in watching that point, so I started watching it and I want to do videos, but I want to kind of keep a respectful distance because he's only started it, so I'm backtracking a bit behind him. Also, he's seen all the Out episodes and I haven't, so it's going to be a different interpretation. He's doing 1 episode at a time. I'm doing 2 at a time. Mine is much more like what me and Ron are doing with Decalogue, where we did 2 episodes at a time, but it's just me talking. So, hope that all makes sense. So if you're a Daisuke Beppu fan, you like his videos, don't worry, I'm not going over his territory, I'm staying behind his schedule, so that he's going to start the series. I'm respectful of that, I'm going to give him space, then I'll just be behind it. You have another view on this series if you're interested. You know, a different point of view. So, or it could be the same probably. You know, we have very similar viewpoints. I don't know. I've not seen most of the episodes yet, so I'm not going to be watching his videos until I finish watching these. So I won't be commenting his videos at all because I've not seen them yet. I'm intentionally not watching them until I've seen the whole of Out One. Then I'll go watch his videos. I just think maybe it's interesting when you do it, so that I'm not influenced in any way. This is my interpretation of Out. Okay, let's begin now with Out One. Right, you see a difference in lighting. I forgot to turn the light on. So there we go. Actually, the plug got pulled a little bit and the light went off, so hope this is all fine. So Out One, Jack Rivette's made it in the early 70s. He'd been a critic in Cahiers du Cinema with Truffaut and Godard. He's started making films in the late 50s. He was always one of the most uncompromising and the most difficult to find directors. He didn't do films like Truffaut, which tend to be more accepted by the mainstream. He didn't do the Godardian play with genre. he was actually almost like Godard before Godard found himself in the 70s to be the guy who made these underground films. Rivette was already doing that from off. He was doing films that were much longer than anyone else, much less interested in narrative. It was much more about people interacting in spaces, and wasn't about editing, or wasn't about quick editing and obvious editing and obvious playing with form to show you're watching a film and how do you interact with the film. It wasn't going to do that. It was how do people live in life, how do people live within art and try and pose art on their lives, and how do people just live with all the crazy stuff you've got in your head. That's, from what I gather, what Rivette's more about. I haven't seen that many Rivette films. I'm going by what I've heard about him, but this is what I've read about him. That's what he's about, and that's what I'm getting from what I've seen already. He's made some acclaimed films like La Belle Novices, which I saw years and years and years ago, and a cut down 2-hour version. I haven't seen the long version. I saw the cut down version. I thought it was amazing, but I haven't seen the longer version. He did Celine and Juliet Go Boating, which I think is a masterpiece. That's one of my favourite films. That's obviously what got me to watching this, to buy this, to start watching it, as well as Daisuke starting his series up. But it was always I was already bored. I was already kind of eyeing up to start it anyway. I mean, it was going to get watched over this winter, so I was already kind of motivated, since it's been one of my favourite films. So, but Rivette never really got much. He got a lot of respect, but he wasn't really like a box office hits or anything. He was just doing his thing. Well respected director. His films didn't make much money. His films were always very long and hard to distribute. He's just one of those directors. It was like, not only was his character speaking in French, but he had like very long running times, which made it hard to sell to America or English speaking countries or any other country that needed subtitles. It was like, it's not just you give this film subtitles, it's like 4 hours long, and it relies on weird character interactions that you have to try and put across in subtitles. That's difficult. That's a difficult sell, so that hasn't helped him sell his films. So yeah, he had a difficult career, but a very worthy one. But Out was like, I don't know why he made Out. Honestly, I have no idea beyond his interesting idea. The idea was basically, you've got a group of people in Paris who you move from place to person. So you've got two different theatre troupes who originally, when you're watching the film, you try to see, are they linked or are they not? Because there's two redheads and I wasn't quite sure if they were the same person to start with until I realised, no, they're different people, they're different troupes. But I was trying to think, does she belong in both troupes? No, it's two different people. But the actresses looked very similar, so it was kind of confusing. You had two of them, put on two different plays, two very different plays. One's about Prometheus, and one is the other one is the Oedipus Rex. So you have these two plays. From what I've seen so far, one of the plays is rehearsed, but no one thinks it's ever going to go on. They're just rehearsing it for the sake of rehearsing, which is the Oedipus Rex one. They're not. They're very passionate about it, putting the thing on in rehearsal. And how does this work? How does this work? They're acting like professionals. I've worked in theatre, so I know the way people act. And they're very, very precise about, does this work here? How does my body work here? They're talking as if they're aiming towards something. But she's saying it's never going, this woman says at some point, it's never going to go on, it's just a rehearsal thing. So then you try to work out, well, why they're doing it beyond technical craft. Is there a reason to do it apart from trying to work on the play? Is that kind of thing, that kind of milieu really, what we're getting here is the artistic 70s thing where it's not about achievement, it's about the journey to your achievement. But against that, you've got this other play. You've also got a story of this woman who's been wandering around different cafes in Paris, she's a bit of a corn woman. She's a bit off. There's a real melancholy to her. She's telling stories that you're not quite sure are true or false. Because she says they're false, but she says she had once had a child but it's taken away from her. So but then she says something else that's false. But then you see her go back to her apartment and there's lots of child stuff around. Like little toys and things, and it's like, well, what's going on? It's very mysterious and weird. She's got this gay friend who's always longing and looking at these men and can't speak to them. So she's very kind to him, and but it's also, you don't know what her deal is. These first two parts, I have no idea where her character's going to go. It's just a very interesting character and a very interesting situation. You've also got Jean-Pierre Leon, who's this guy who's deaf and dumb. Apparently. I don't believe it. I'll just say it that way. There's enough to... You've got an actor who I know isn't right to start with, and you're going to have to him away. He's speaking for 13 hours. And it's also, he doesn't feel... He feels very aggressive. He's a hustler. He's going round saying, giving people envelopes saying, I'm deaf and dumb, please give me money. He's hustling people. He's playing this kind of music thing, this harmonica thing, very aggressively. And he's hustling people in cafes to get money and to basically begging. But he's also giving them bits of envelopes for the money, which is a page of a book inside of different bits of different books. As if someone's a gift for giving him money, but it's from books he loves. So it's obvious he's not. There's something else going on with him. He's very sort of focused on something, and you can't quite work out what it is. It's very much, I don't understand this, but I really appreciate the atmosphere of it. There's something weird and intriguing. Again, it's like the woman who's a con artist in the cafes, where there's something going on, and these two people are sort of singular people within this narrative, and everyone else is in groups. So you try to work out what's going on with these two, and you have a lot of mystery to it. But you're not quite sure in both cases, is the mystery personal, or is there something else going on to them? Because there's an atmosphere of it's an unusual atmosphere, especially with him, because he's putting these bits of novel into these envelopes. You feel something's weird there. But he's getting these letters passed to him by people passing on the streets, these notes which he's trying to decipher. He's trying to work out what's going on. He's trying to see what does it mean. He's trying to work it out, and eventually he sees him in his apartment where he's having problems with his rent, it seems, and he's having to try and charm his landlords and everything else. So he's a person who's living on the edge of catastrophe, but he's still trying to work something out. But you're never quite sure if these notes are coming from people. Is it a conspiracy, or is it a game? It could be both, because again, I'm pretty sure the character's not deaf and dumb. So you're never quite sure where it's going. It's just a pleasure to watch. Again, it's the one that's most like Juliet and Celine Gaubotti in some ways, where there's a playful thing with him where you're never quite sure where he's going, but there's kind of fun to his character and what he's doing, because he's cheerfully corrupt. Like, he knows he's up to no good, but he's kind of fun with it. He's also trying to work it out, so he works out that one of the quotes is from Lewis Carroll, and then he works out one of the other quotes he gets is from Balzac. He realises that all the quotes are from a Balzac book, so he's worked that out, but he can't quite work out what else. Because I originally thought it was Carroll because there was something of the snark. But again, it's literary illusion, which is a big thing in French films of this period, of the late 60s, early 70s. All the people who wrote them and directed them were critics, so they've read lots of books. They make all these illusions, and sometimes the illusions feel real, sometimes it feels like they're trying to show the kind of pretentiousness of a typical student. You know, there's a thing with people in their 20s that can be really pretentious and quote books they don't quite understand. But I've read the book, I've read it, I know the quote, but what does it actually mean in detail when it's like they can't quite, they just know the quote, so they're trying to have this kind of cool to them that I know a lot. when it's just a lot of fear involved and a fear of being not showing up, so they're just trying to have a front. I mean, you see this in some Western films at the time as well, where they have artists who are get this big front they're putting up, just trying to not get cornered in any way. So you see it in a lot of films at the time. So it must have been something going on at the time, but a lot of students were trying to show off and feel as if they were about something. I mean, Devil Probably is very much about this kind of thing. So Leon is doing his thing, and it's very intriguing. There's a nice atmosphere to it, but it's, you're never quite sure where it's going. There's delightfulness to it. You kind of, those scenes are placed very carefully within the narrative. I mean, the narrative goes from one thing to the other without any plot motivation, but it's timed really well for clarity, for just when you're getting bored with one thing, it'll flick to something else, even if it's only for like half a minute. But it gives your brain a chance to reset and then go back to where you're at, and you can look upon the thing again with some freshness. So for the first episode, the Leon stuff is actually almost like a carefully placed bit of pacing. Then the second episode, it's a bit more involved as you get these notes, and it becomes much more the narrative. But the first episode, he's just placed as a thing for pacing. The woman who's also alone is placed more carefully for the first two episodes. Like, her story is a more measured pace. You're never quite sure what she's about, but you know there's something wrong where you know she's conning people, but you don't know why. And she's lying alone in her room a lot, and she looks very depressed and very much out of sorts, and someone who's lacking motivation and not quite sure what she wants from life. But you're never quite sure if that's her natural state or there's something actually wrong, or it's just like a reaction to the world around her. It's like, maybe it's a passing phase. You don't know. I suspect that something is deeply troubling her, but I could be wrong, because the pacing and style of this one is, you've got acting, you've got life, and you've got people who go from one thing to the other with ease. So she can maybe go with ease from like trauma to something else. That's just the style of the film. So there could be some charming stuff coming, or it could be something horrible coming. You don't know. I have no idea. I just don't know where they're going with this. This is quite interesting. Like, I'm looking forward to the launch stuff with some delight to see where they're going to go with it, because I think it's going to be fun. Hull 1 is much more of dread. It's like, it's been Daisuke pointed out this one, sort of like, before he did the videos, with his introduction to them, he pointed out in some ways it was like Twin Peaks. And yeah, there's a sort of dread that you get from Hull, the same way you get just with the atmosphere and some of the supporting characters in Twin Peaks. There's something here coming, I don't know what, but it's not going to be good. You know, there's that kind of feeling with her. But we'll see where it goes. I don't have a clue yet, but it's kind of interesting. Okay, now we have the theatre groups, two different ones. I'll start with the first one you see, which is the ones doing Oedipus Rex. This is made up of like 3 women and 2 men. You've got a guy, you have an older guy and a younger guy. You've got an older woman who's like in her 30s, maybe early 40s, I don't know. She's kind of the leader of the group. She feels the most grown up, the most capricious as well. It's like she's the one with a focus on something, and she's a red-headed one who I get confused with earlier. I wasn't sure if she was in 2 different groups. You've got her, you've got a woman who plays a lot of musical instruments, who seems to be one who's observing a lot more, and you've got another one who does knitting and does a costume, but also is doing some of the acting, is a bit more like a physical actress. And you get the guy, well, the younger guy seems to be much more observant as well, watching from a distance. He interacts with some scenes, but he's not as into it, I don't feel, for the first 2 episodes, as the older guy, who seems to be much more dedicated, even though you're never quite sure why he's here. When he comes into the rehearsals, he seems very calm and relaxed, but when he's into the acting, he seems to really want to get it right, and he has a reason for doing it, but you're never quite sure why. and it might never occur. It's one of those things that could keep his character. You're never quite sure who he is and what he's about. But he's not mysterious. He just is very much a simple kind of character, older guy, and everyone else seems a bit more fluid and a bit more ambiguous than him. I mean, the younger guy at one point runs off from the rehearsals to go for some woman who turns out to suggest he was a prostitute. You know, so he has other interests, and the women involved all have their own lives. They seem to be much more like in charge than the men there. The men seem to be like the add-ons. The women seem more passionate about the play itself. The older guy's got his passions, but it only comes in when he's doing something. The women seem to be more, even though they've got real lives outside, they seem to be here and are more focused on what they're doing at all times. That's the vibe I get from this play, of what they're doing in the play and how they're interacting. So you see them doing rehearsals. There's a lot of out one is with rehearsal hall and what art's about. In this one you've got a structured play, which is scene to scene. You've got music, you've got different things going on. There's only 5 people on stage at any time, a group of 5. And it's pretty strange how it works out, because nothing's rehearsed in any direction where you can see a flow from one scene to the other. They're rehearsing scenes, but it feels random, this one. Well, another play I will get to, it doesn't feel as random. So it's almost like a play, you know, it's leading up direction of the play, so it allows them to jump around a lot. It's like, we're doing this scene, and we're doing this scene. And it's almost like a collage of emotions that they're interested in exploring that day. And because initially this is when it put me off more than anything else, I couldn't grasp onto what they were doing, because even though they were doing rehearsals for a scene, because there's one scene, there's another one, they didn't seem to link in any way beyond the rehearsing 2 different scenes. It was harder to get attached to, which in some ways is good, because you have to focus a bit more and try and work out what's going on, what the interactions are between the people. In other ways it is kind of distancing. But it didn't distance me enough. I just still was enjoying watching it, I'm still enjoying the process and try to work out these actors and what they're about and who they are. And it's like how you see people and how you see what they're trying to project. Because what they're trying to project is performances. So what they're projecting isn't them, it's what they assume from the text. So it's text work. So acting, it's almost like acting isn't just your emotions, it's interpretation through the text. And they're all about that, but they're jumping up the text a little bit so you can't quite connect to the text. But by doing that, you're watching the process rather than the text. You're not getting caught up to the story, you're actually watching how they process it. How they process these random scenes that they know that you don't know as well. And how it's almost like the mechanics of the theatrical performance. And that's where you get in this play, at least the first 2 chapters, the first 2 episodes of what I can interpret it. And it's fascinating just to watch this and to watch the drive of these people as they try and work out what they're doing. And you try to work out why they're so passionate about it, especially as you realise they're not going to put it on. And this one did feel a little bit more like private than even though it's in some ways it seemed more professional in how they were interacting, how they were being so specific about certain things. It did feel kind of private in a way which you were a bit distanced from it. But I don't know, I think some of that's to do with the effects of always random scenes. But also you get a feeling of them jumping bit to bit to bit, wherever where emotions take them. And that's not how you rehearse plays. You're always aiming for direction. Because they don't have a direction, they're just going from whatever they feel like doing. Even though they've rehearsed it like professionals, it's almost like workshops, so they're good for when they go for real rehearsals and real auditions. And that could be what they're doing. But it becomes like the process in this section. It's not the meaning, it's the process of how you look at the text, how you interpret the text, how do you interpret how you throw the text up there. What gets in the way of the text? What's superfluous and what's integral to it, and it's about the mechanics of how do you get that across to someone watching. Where do you want to keep it vague? Where do you want to keep it specific? Is there sound effects you need to get interpretation beyond the language? It's all about those mechanics, but it's about something that's never going to be seen. It's only going to be private performance of people come and watch and rehearse. And it's kind of interesting because the first, even though I didn't know that until the end of episode 2, you kind of felt it. It did feel a bit disjointed, a bit weird. You wondering where it was going with this thing, and it just didn't feel quite right. But it felt fascinating because it's about the technique. So you have that one. But you also have the second one about Prometheus. This is much more an interpretive situation. You actually have an actor here you recognise. There's the guy, like Leon, there's Michael Lonsdale, who would soon be a Bond villain, who pops up in lots of films from Europe. He's one of those people you always know the face. He was in Ronin, Munich. He's in a lot of films. He always pops up. He's always a good supporting actor. This one he's very young. It's kind of funny because I saw The Beast Must Die recently, which had Michael Gambon as a young man. It's funny seeing an actor who you're always used to seeing older as a younger person. It takes you out for a second. It's like, that's freaky. I've never seen him young before. So you see him as a younger man. He seems to be leading this, taking Prometheus. And your first view of it is not like dialogue. It's actually this free-flowing, interpretive reaction to the what's going on, which is almost like the clay, building the clay of the form of the Prometheus. It's almost like they're building something, and the reaction almost like animals. So in some ways it's very monkey-like. In other ways, you're wondering, I'm talking about monkeys, and then it's like other times they look much more human. And then there seem to be focus on this thing that's getting built, which is this like one of those body things where you put clothes on to show what the clothes are. And it seems like they're putting clay on it, and they're wiping clay all over themselves, and they can't communicate. They can communicate physically rather than mentally, or with words. They have to use their whole bodies to interpret it, and they're always going over each other and kissing and pushing each other away and acting as if they're scratching, almost like they're forming each other. So it's like what makes up humanity. Is it the animal side? Is it your emotions that's coming through this block of something you can't articulate? So even though you're watching this long sequence in the first part, and you can't quite make it out, like what's the point, and it's gone for a very long time, you can see the logic in the body language, which is what they're wanting. So it's almost like you're seeing, even though they're interpreting it, and it's like improvisation, they've always done this before, so they know to put a story within whatever they're doing. And so even though it's not dialogue led like the Oedipus Rex, it's much more distant and for the outside world strange. It actually has more of a story because you're actually following something. You can actually make out body language, so it's actually easier to watch. I find it much more intriguing to watch. And eventually they break off after they've got beyond their scene, and they start discussing it. And here you've got like 2 guys in this, and there's like 5 women or something. It's much more female led, but there's a guy who runs it, Michael Lonsdale. He's the one who's leading the discussion, but he's giving it. And one thing you notice about this is everyone has a say a lot more in this one. In the Oedipus Rex one, the red-haired woman seems to be the one who's always controlling where they're going with the play and what they're doing and what's going on. It seems to be an outpouring of her emotions. Everyone else seems to be there to learn, but they're not. They're not full partners. In this other one, Lonsdale's in charge, it feels, but everyone can throw in their point of view, and everyone's listened to, and it's almost like a group effort. So it's very much interpretive play, but it feels like it's much closer to going on somewhere. Like there's something that could be shown at some point. There's a goal to what they're doing. So they're not just doing it higgledy-piggledy, because over the 2 episodes, you're actually seeing the play continue to develop, and you get more scenes where you get to see her talking as if she's one of the actresses start talking as if she's Prometheus, talking about her experience of just waking up to life and things. And you find out other actors in the group have done the same thing in different interpretations of the scene. Like each one gets to see what they think within that scene as they act it out, and the rest act as if they're basically almost like animalistic humans who can't understand it or around her. And you feel everyone takes a turn at being the person who's been formed, and the rest take turns as being animals. And then they discuss what the interpretation was of whether they felt like being the animalistic characters and whether they felt like being the person who could actually talk. And so it's a different interpretation of being as they talk and as they discuss what their feelings are, and as they discuss where there's feelings of violence in the situation, where there's feelings of love in the situation. And it's almost like they try to find themselves, try to find their meaning in their lives, and they're using this interpretive art as a way to do it, and they're trying to experience it, they're trying to do something with it, and it's all very complicated. It's about what is art to the people making art, but it's also what is art to people watching people create art, and you've got to find your own meaning from it through there. So it's a much more open, intriguing landscape, where the other one's very private and don't talk to me sort of thing. At least that woman who runs it is. Here it's much more open, and you actually get a lot more from it because you have different personalities who feel they can talk up. Even if they're saying stupid at times, it's still intriguing because they're pretentious in the way that some actors and writers can be pretentious. But that's part of the theme, because they're trying to learn, and it's like anyone trying to go above what they know is going to be pretentious at times. It's just the way it is. And it's sort of like the search for something in your life through art, through not being stuck to language, but using your body to try and interpret things. So it's a very fascinating, intriguing section of the film, and it's kind of the centrepiece of the film. I don't know if it was meant to be, or this was just the one that was most interesting, but it's the way it's set up, the first 2 parts, it's the most interesting thing. The other things happen, like you find out the woman who's running the Oedipus Rex play, she thinks her husband's having an affair, but she's not quite sure if it's in her head or it's actually is happening. Some of that person's come back into their lives who they haven't seen for years, and he shouldn't know her husband, but he does, and it's like this paranoia, and it's like eating her alive, but you're never quite sure if that's her process of art, or it's art that we have her getting through her paranoid feelings. You know, does she do this, does she act to try and get rid of this emotion that drives her mad in daily life? You're never quite sure, because it's never quite developed that much into these. That's where the second part ends, so you have to kind of push it away basically, because that's what you're getting. So I just have to take it as maybe she's paranoid, but maybe she's not. Again, it's like the Leon thing, you're never quite sure where it's going to go, but it's very intriguing. And the whole film has that kind of feeling of, it's early on, the first 2 chapters, it's setting everything up. I'm not quite sure it's even going to bring anything together. It's just enjoyable to watch and try and interpret through the different types of film language of what it's going to be, because each section of the film feels different for her. Everything's shot simply. They're cutting back and forward. They're not doing 2 shots of anything, just covering the action. It's almost like a few cameras always covering the action and keeping to what's interesting. But just because of the energy of the actors, each section of the story feels different. Like in the Oedipus Rex, you feel like you're following people specifically, even though you're not. It's just the feeling of the actors they're given. You feel you're much more focused on individual tensions between them. in the other one, another play, the previous one, yeah, it's much more general. You're seeing the energy between the people. And it's a very different feeling just watching it. In the Leon section, he just feels isolated, even though you're seeing him interact with people because of his energy. He feels isolated. So actually keeping the camera back a bit makes you interpret people in spaces a lot more naturally because the director's not doing it for you. So you have to, again, that one of the things I found was the woman as well, she feels isolated too, but in a different way. He feels like you're further back from her than you ever really on. One just feels like he's right close up like here to you, and she's like way back here. Even though they're always in the same framing type of thing, but it's just the energies are different. And the whole film just feels like you have to interpret yourself, and your energy's just defined by the people around. So the films are exhausting, they're really exhausting because they have different energies of different characters and what they are. So I watched basically one episode a day. So hour and a half the first day, almost 2 hours for the second day. I just watched them over those 2 days, felt really exhausting. So now I'm taking a little break before I go back to 3 and 4, because you just feel yourself always focused on what's going on and what the details are. Some films you can watch like tons of hours of them and it's fine, or a TV show, but you're actually not using as much your brain energy to it because the plot's taking care of so much of it for you. Then you realise you have to interpret and to think it through. When you're watching something like this, it takes much more of your energy away and you're exhausted. So this is pretty exhausting in a good way, but it really does challenge you to actually interpret what you're seeing and what you're feeling. So it's wonderful. So I'm looking forward to parts 3 and 4. They should be great. So I'll see you some point with parts 3 and 4.